A minor decision was made in the Android saga that decided the fate of the entire Dragon Ball series as a whole, and this was the simple decision to let Vegeta and Trunks train first in the Room of Spirit and Time, while Goku and Gohan waited outside. But imagine if this wasn't the case. If Goku and Gohan had fought Cell first, we are talking about a totally different series from the Android arc all the way to Dragon Ball Super. Certain characters would get weaker, relationships would change, and contact with newer characters would be non-existent. So without wasting any more time, alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and let's investigate this what-if scenario. If Goku and Gohan fought against Semi-Perfect Cell, he would literally be squashed like a bug. There are only two potential events that can make this what-if scenario a complete negative outcome. Android 16 might decide after seeing Goku to blow himself up because at that point the bomb wasn't removed, and if 16 blows himself up along with the whole planet, then everybody's dead. And then you also have Cell as another major threat too, as Goku or Gohan might not kill Cell quickly enough, and Cell might decide to blow himself up the way that he originally did. However, the good news is that 16 seemed to have been acting on his own at this point even before being repaired by Bulma and Dr. Briefs, so chances are that he would still be on the side of our heroes. And after Goku and Gohan disposed of Cell in his semi-perfect state, 16 would have been repaired and would have never have been killed. So we have a scenario where Android 16 never dies and just roams the earth. But after all of Cell's victims are wished back to life, 17 would also return back to life, and because 16 would still be alive, chances are that 16, 17, and 18 would just roam the earth together. This is actually a negative outcome socially for Krillin because the reason, or one of the factors as to why 18 fell for Krillin was because he stayed by her side after Cell puked her out. But if that never happened, and she was never on Kami's lookout with Krillin and all his friends, then she would have cared a lot less about Krillin, and since she would be roaming the earth and you can't really read her power level, chances are that 18 and Krillin would never end up together, and this means that Marin would have never have been born. But the biggest downside to Cell dying much earlier is the impact that it would have on Goku and Gohan's power gains. If Cell never pushed Gohan into Super Saiyan 2 because he was too weak, then Gohan may have taken years to truly achieve that form, assuming he even still trained at all. Because remember, Goku never dies, and if Goku never dies, chances are that Gohan would never train and never attain Super Saiyan 2, because Chi-Chi told Goku that once this android threat is over, that Gohan's gonna focus on school. Now, of course, Goku can always use instant transmission to go into the afterlife and train, but because his body is alive, it wouldn't change the fact that he wouldn't be allowed to push his body as far as he could if he were dead. Since Trunks would never have fought against Perfect Cell, he would have never realized the flaw in Super Saiyan Grade 3, and would have still felt that that was his optimal and best transformation. And of course, this doesn't make a difference against the weaker future androids that Trunks could have easily have killed just by going into a regular Super Saiyan state, but this permanently affects future Trunks moving on to Dragon Ball Super, as we will later discuss. So the only character that really stays the same in all of this is Vegeta, as he would train even harder knowing that he has a realistic chance of fighting Goku again, as opposed to before. And in terms of social differences, this is also a Vegeta that didn't rage out against Cell after Trunks had died, so the mutual respect between Vegeta and future Trunks would never develop. And this is a Vegeta who would care even less about the present Trunks and his rivalry with Goten, who was still conceived at this point and was going to be born. So socially, Goku being alive has a major negative effect on Vegeta's personal life. Now, the good news about the Buu Saga is that Vegeta wouldn't have been as eager to get possessed and fight Goku as he originally did, since he already lived on Earth. So Majin Vegeta isn't a threat, and with 7 years of training, Goku and Vegeta should be able to defeat Deborah alone. So this means that Buu would never have hatched from his magical ball. So we can say that Vegeta definitely wouldn't have been a part of the clique, but at the same time, he definitely would not have been the father that he was to Trunks and the husband that he was to Bulma. So the Buu arc definitely ends on a positive note, but there are some key differences that we must point out. First of all, the character of Oob would never exist because Buu would have never have hatched from his magical ball, And because of that, a whole list of events would have been needed in order for Oop to exist as a character. Moving on to Gohan, because he would live in a peaceful time and would have never have met the Elder Kai, his latent abilities would not have been drawn out more, and he would have never have trained with the Z-Sword, so Gohan would be a lot weaker than he originally was, on top of also possibly not training at all because Chi-Chi told him not to. Now on a social level, one positive is that since there would have never have been a Cell games, Gohan's private life would have been a lot more secure and it would have been harder for Videl to figure out exactly who he is. But this doesn't mean that Gohan and Videl would have never have ended up with each other, because it's possible that Gohan could have gone to the same high school and could have still become a superhero in his own right, and since Videl herself is also fighting crime regardless of if Mr. Satan defeated Cell or not, it's possible that their paths could cross and they could end up together. Now Goku being alive also means that he would spend less time in the afterlife, and because of this, our characters wouldn't know about the concept of fusion, because Goku wouldn't know the fusion dance or ever be in a situation to receive the Potara airings. So fusion is non-existent to our characters. And just imagine how incredibly strong Goten would have been if he had Goku to train him, when you consider how strong he already was at the age of 7, being able to turn into a Super Saiyan after spending most of his life training with Chi-Chi. If he had trained with Goku, his potential and his abilities would have been off the charts compared to what it originally was. So to sum it all up, Goku would be weaker, Gohan would be weaker, Goten would be stronger, Trunks would be weaker, and Vegeta would stay around the same. And remember, this is under the assumption that Chi-Chi let Goku train Goten, because if she decided to let Goten become a scholar just like Gohan, then 4 of the 5 major Saiyans would have been weaker than they originally were, with the only exception being Vegeta. Now with all of these weaker characters, just imagine how horrible this looks for Dragon Ball Super. You see, if Beerus wakes up, and Goku's power is pathetic compared to what it originally was, then Goku wouldn't have impressed Beerus enough to be able to train with him in Whis. This introduces What If Killer number 3. Beerus could always just blow up the Earth for whatever reason, and we basically have to hope that he's not in a bad mood just for our heroes to survive. The only good thing is that Fat Boo wouldn't have been around to anger Beerus, so if he decided to take a trip to Earth and Fat Boo didn't piss him off, then our heroes have a glimmer of hope. And this leads us on to What If Killer number 4. If Frieza is somehow resurrected, everyone is done. Just think of how Super Saiyan Blue Goku fought head-to-head with Golden Frieza with all the training he got. At best, our Goku would have barely have achieved Super Saiyan 3 and would have been squashed by Golden Frieza. The only sliver of hope that our heroes would have to beat Frieza would be if Master Roshi somehow sealed Frieza away with the evil containment wave. But based off of Frieza's speed compared to our heroes, the likelihood of this working is next to none. Now the Universe 6 tournament would obviously never happen, since Goku and Vegeta would have had virtually no contact with Beerus and Whis, since Beerus would have never have been interested in Goku as a character because of Super Saiyan God. Which leads us to What If Killer number 5. Zeno might just randomly decide to wipe out all universes without notice, and if he does that, then there's nothing our heroes can do. And for What If Killer number 6, this is actually a What If Killer in an alternate timeline. And this is the main fact that Trunks would fail to stop Babidi and Dabura even with the Supreme Kai's help. Remember, this Trunks would be stuck in the mindset that Super Saiyan Grade 3 was his best form, having never fought against Cell. You have a significantly slower future Trunks going up against a villain whose special ability is to spit on people and turn them into stone. That, my friends, is a recipe for disaster, which is why the future timeline stands no chance to survive, as it never does. The only sliver of hope would be that Bulma uses the time machine to go back in time and try to fix things again, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other different day. So with that said, the Zamasu arc is impossible to happen for 3 different reasons. First of all, Goku wouldn't have had contact with Beerus or Whis, which means he can't go into Universe 10 to meet Zamasu, which originally triggered the time loop, since meeting Goku increased Zamasu's hatred of the mortals. Number 2. Since Trunks is dead and Earth is probably completely wiped out in the future timeline by Dabura, there is no Earth to even go to in the future. And for number 3, Even if we totally ignore the first two reasons and say that Goku Black exists just because, he would be significantly weaker with a much weaker stolen Goku body. So any of the gods of destruction would have easily killed him had they confronted him. So as you can see, this arc is 100% impossible to occur. For our characters to have even the slightest chance of survival, we would have to hope that Beerus never destroys Earth, hope that Frieza never gets resurrected, and hope that Zeno never wants to randomly erase all universes at once. So it's foolish to even ponder the thought of whether or not the Tournament of Power could ever happen if Goku never got in contact with Zeno in the first place. Now, for those of you who are wondering about Broly, Broly would be stuck in space with Paragus eating bugs for the rest of his life, unless Frieza was successfully resurrected and recruited him. But at this point, Earth would have been wiped out anyways, so Broly would be working for Frieza, but all of our heroes would be dead, so who cares? So for our final and 7th what-if killer, we have what would have happened to Dragon Ball GT if we took the continuity of the Buu Saga going into GT instead of the continuity of the Buu Saga going into Dragon Ball Super. And canon or not, since Oob never existed, Goku wouldn't be training on the Lookout. And all of these events were necessary to trigger the events of GT, since the Pilaf gang was looking to wish for youth. So if GT did somehow happen, Goku would have never been a kid, and he would have been a lot weaker than he originally was, which is not good for the state of humanity, because if Goku's a lot weaker, then he would have gotten beaten by some powerful entity at some point. So if you ever wondered if killing Cell early would have saved the Dragon Ball universe, this video proves why killing Cell early ultimately ruins it. And if you're in the mood for more Dragon Ball what-ifs, check out What If Bulma and Yamcha Never Broke Up, or What If Gohan Never Met Videl. And if you're in more of a futuristic mode, check out What If Trunks and Mai stayed in the present timeline. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.